playing with the kid, involving them in everyday life, and just being in close proximity as much as possible, and having the screens reduced as much as possible to age 4, that they are going to see so much better developmental outcomes in every spectrum of development.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. My guests today worked from 2021 to 2025 to produce the award-winning documentary, A Stone Unturned, which explores how screen time shapes early childhood and the potential for behaviors that parallel autism. So much so that the term virtual autism has been used to describe these behaviors. Super compelling topic, one that I know that has so much discussion around. And welcome to Healthy Screen Habits, Wilder, Nicholson, and Lori Frome.
Thank you. So wonderful to be here.
Yes, thank you, Hillary, for having us.
I don't know much about the documentary process. But I'm interested in how the seed of a documentary gets planted in real life observation and your professional experience. So could you both share how you kind of came first to this topic of screen overuse syndrome / virtual autism and what led you to create A Stone Unturned?
I came to this topic quite by accident. At the time, it was 2013 that I was working with a young child with red flags for autism. And so I was working with a family that I was put in for to monitor the red flags for autism in their child for the first 6 weeks of therapeutic services. And we were basically working with the child and the family to see if we could rectify some of the symptoms that were the red flags of autism. This child had no language to speak except echolalia, which was the phrase "shut the door," but not functional, something he had heard the family say repeatedly.
And did you tell us how old he was? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was 2.5 at the time.
Okay. Just so we're aware.
Yes. And he also was showing red flags for autism due to behaviors that were very restrictive and repetitive. So he played with toys by spinning wheels. He was down on the floor looking at things at angles that were odd. No functional play skills, and not using gestures at the time, using hands of other people to have his needs met. So these red flags were all documented on his intake paperwork. And I, had talked to the parents about his daily routine because that was documented on the paperwork as well. The family was from an area in the Arabic countries where they said that autism just didn't exist when we came in the house. So they didn't really know much about autism at the time. And of course, we know it exists in that area, but maybe the family just wasn't exposed. So they didn't have a lot of background knowledge. This was also their first child. So it was a very new term, a new concept, new symptomology for them. And in some ways, because they came here as refugees, I think that they were not even sure what exactly was happening. I know the pediatrician had recommended the family for services. So the mom came and was expecting another child, and she was learning English from the television. She had not known any English before coming over, and knew that in order to feel safe going outside in the community, navigating, our local environment, she needed to learn English. So she was very tuned into television shows that spoke in English that she could understand. And that was her way of learning language.
Mm-hmm.
So in her parenting mind, she thought, well, my child can learn language from his favorite cartoons as well. And I won't mention the name of any of the cartoons, but a lot of them were the same cartoons, the same episode. And we often see this as a frequent theme with a lot of the children that we see with virtual autism. It's a lot of the same programming, which we have also found just in our own circle to probably be more detrimental than programming that's different every day. And we believe that it wires the neuroplasticity in a way that um, you know, the neurons that fire together wire together in a way like our brains have never been able to do before. The same stimuli again and again and again, exactly the same. Or the same clip going again and again that the child wants to see will run back on the tablet, rewind, watch the same, maybe 1 minute clip.
It's not the same as a parent who, say, is being requested to read night after night, Good Night Moon. Or I
Oh,
mean, because
no.
I know there's
Yes.
at some point there is a lot of repetition in
Yes.
toddlerhood.
Right. But that's good. That's how toddlers learn, and that's how they
Mm-hmm.
increase their attention span.
Mm-hmm.
So, with each subsequent reading, usually you'll find that if the child is interested in the theme of the book or um, what the book is about or characters in the book, that every subsequent reading from the first, the child has more interest due to the predictability. And yet, there's a difference because we can never recreate to a T the real world
Yeah.
like the screen is able to replay
Yeah.
exactly in the same time, same voice, same situation. That just doesn't happen in real life. The research shows that in early childhood, with the first video viewing, and a cohort of 18 months old with parents, the first video viewing, the parents had the most attention to the video. It was novel, their attention held. The children at 18 months had the least um, attention to the video. It was new. Their mind constantly seeks different stimuli. And so they weren't able to attend that long. There was no, prediction pattern, anything. After the subsequent viewings, then the second viewing, the adult's attention started fading with every subsequent viewing. And every subsequent viewing after that, the child's attention started getting stronger and more tuned in. So
Oh,
anyway, this child was watching reportedly by his parents 10 hours of screen time a day, mostly on a tablet, mostly repetitive viewing of cartoons and very strong signs of autism, going to the back of me, hitting me with his hand,
mhm.
coming because he wanted to communicate that he wanted me like to communicate to, but
Mhm.
this child had so few understanding of communication, so little understanding of communication that he didn't even know to come to the front of my face to communicate.
So, how did you know to link that specifically to screens?
Started with the mom and me talking to the mom after 6 weeks and saying, look, like he just hasn't made the progress that we need in our country, in our state. And we know that best development comes with the more resources, the earlier with this type of situation. And so the mom said, well, we really don't know anything about it. Let us think about it for a weekend. We'll get back to you next week. So I always would see them on a Friday, a weekly visit for an hour. And I came that next Friday, and the child had had a little bit better of a visit. He actually came to the front of me to be swung onto the couch with his mom. I was swinging his hands, his mom was swinging his feet. And he came to the front and kind of, put his arms up a little bit. At the end of the session, the mom didn't speak English well. I asked her, oh, he had a little bit better of a session today. Anything new? And she said, well, when we talked to you on Friday, we decided that he was more attentive without the screens on, meaning the tablet or the television. So for a period of 30 days, they were going to try removing all screen media. They also took away all light up toys, considering them as attention grabbers for him, and replaced it with like a tricycle, a ball jumping pit, some train tracks like Thomas the Train kind of
Like
things. Other,
analog toys.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
just like very boring toys, Mr. Potato Head. And when I say boring, I mean
Good boring.
developmentally amazing toys, but old school.
Yes.
We had to cancel the next three sessions due to weather and a personal conflict. So 3 weeks went by. And when I came back to a completely different child. And yet I forgot what had been happening because it was 3 weeks before. And he just had a good visit, but I've seen good visits many times throughout my career. So I
Uh-huh.
didn't really think too much of it. So this child who normally took my hand, to lead me through this hallway has the gesture of come then. That's
Oh,
like developmental
shoot.
milestones times a year ahead of holding me
Just in 3 weeks.
just in 3 weeks. Comes up to
Amazing.
my face and says more and signs for more when he wants to be swung again. He used to stare off a lot with a blank look and just kind of look through you. There
Hmm.
was more eye contact that was present, shared enjoyment with his tricycle. I was honking the horn on one side. He imitated honking the horn on the other side. That was reciprocal for two turns.
And
Um,
that's like indicative of that serve and return relationship that's so
yes,
critical for speech
yes.
development.
Yes.
Yeah.
So by the time the session's over, I'm like, he has made more progress in 3 weeks than 28 months of me seeing any other child that had a similar predisposition of skills, like a similar disposition of skills or presentation of red flags for autism. So I kind of I asked the mom, I said, I need to go out to my car for a minute, like be excused. And I just actually my eyes started watering because I felt like I had seen a miracle occur in my mind and I didn't know where to start with the mom. Only because of her capacity to understand English and my capacity to communicate what I wanted to. So I needed to get myself together and just find a way to ask her what in the heck has been happening the past 3 weeks.
Right.
And so when I did say, to this mom, wow, like what is happening? He's made so much progress. She basically told me, like, remember, we had said we were removing screens for 30 days. This is what he's doing now. We're on day 29. Do you think we should continue it? We think we should.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. But like, I don't think because of her lack of knowledge with autism and how it looked in young children to begin with, that she understood the amount of progress and that this was not normal
Yeah.
for a
Well,
child.
if it's your first child and you
Right.
haven't worked with children, how would you
Mm-hmm.
know? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, clearly they were undergoing a lot of change, a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, that's what I think it's important that we just come from a place of understanding and teaching. We don't come from a place of, judging
Yeah.
of where people are in their life. It's like the more you know, the better you
Mm-hmm.
can do. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
yes.
Yes.
So,
So then I um was just like, please, whatever you're doing, continue what you're doing. I will be here next week. I need to go home and learn everything I can on autism and screen time because that's all I could connect it to. Everything
sure.
else she was doing was normal stuff that any other parent would have done. Play with their kid with good toys. Like, and she removed the light up toys. It wasn't like, in my opinion, a huge, huge deal, but that this screen time that was normally 10 and a half hours a day per the evaluation report had come down to zero
Hmm.
and was replaced with a huge amount of interaction in the meantime because this child constantly wanted her attention. That was the function of a lot of that behavior was attention and coming to communicate. So that she was playing with him a lot and involving him in all these routines. So I started looking up screen time and autism, television and autism, and not really anything's coming up except one paper that was published back in 2006. And that was by Dr. Michael Waldman and Dr. Sean Nicholson, entitled Does Television Cause Autism? It was like my exact search words, basically. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, this paper is like exactly the title I'm looking for. Let me read it. And as I was going and reading it, it was talking about precipitation data and cable integration in areas of Pennsylvania and California that were close by each other as far as weather patterns, but
Mm-hmm.
that the cable television went into the homes at a different rate. One had access to free cable or very discounted cable early. The other did not have access to cable till later.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it rained a certain amount in the area, the children watched a certain amount more television. They were able to decipher this data. And basically, it looked at these two counties, and where the cable television went in earlier, it would be an assumption that there was more time to watch screen time when it rained than when the cable television didn't go in. There was only 3 channels at the time. Adult programming most likely wouldn't hold a toddler's attention, and so
Mm-hmm.
they would be doing other things. And the
Yeah.
correlation showed that it was highly correlative with the autism rate at that
Right.
time in that county.
Yeah. I found
Um,
that fascinating in the little preview of the documentary that I was able to see. Which leads me to ask, Wilder, how did you come into this subject and decide, hey, this deserves a full documentary? Like, yeah, I feel like this is a good segue into your side of the story.
I've been making films about like early education and outdoors, nature-based education. And so I guess like back in 2021, a family member, Sean Nicholson, mentioned this research that he did at Cornell, and the authors published, and we're hoping that this, like, a lot of attention would be there, and that like awareness could happen. Fast forward to 2021, that's when we started to talk, oh, maybe we could make a documentary to help raise awareness and reach people. I really became interested in this topic when I spoke with a doctor from France, Dr.
Mm.
Duconda. Yeah,
Hmm.
we did an interview, and I had read a little bit about like the research she had done and work she was doing with kids and recommending removing screen time as a way to help kids with development delays and how kids would lose a diagnosis like within a month or so of just going screen free and having more social interaction. Talking with Dr. Duconda, it was just clear like this was like a worldwide phenomenon that was happening.
Well, and I love that this is the place where research meets the road, right? Where it's like here we've got Lori who is so on the road that she's looking for
Literally.
like I'm not I think I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Am I right in seeing this? And then you've got other people who have done the research and they're going, we would love to share this, but we don't know how. And that's why we need people like you, Wilder. So thank you for recognizing that this is a story that needed to be produced and published and is now winning awards. And so that's very exciting. When we come back, let's talk more about the documentary A Stone Unturned, and we're going to get into some more of this like specific definitions of virtual autism. From brand new parents to parents of teens who already have their own smartphones, Healthy Screen Habits presentations can help you navigate parenting in this digital age. We cover topics like creating your own family tech plan with a template that helps you guide your conversations and how to improve our kids' mental health through healthy screen habits. If you have a book club, bunco group, or even a group of neighborhood moms that you'd like to gather together for creating a plan on how your kids are going to play together, grow together, and what apps to look out for, let's have a mom's night. In-person or virtual presentations are available. Reach out to us at healthyscreenhabits.org. Click the Book a Speaker button, and let's get the fun started. Wilder Nicholson and Lori Frome are here today talking about the first feature documentary that I have seen that is specifically on screen time and autism related symptoms. A Stone Unturned introduces three families who try a digital screen fast to help their children with autism, and they discover remarkable changes, like Lori was talking about, within their children. So, we certainly have research studies showing how screen time is influencing early brain development. This documentary shows how the absence of screens can help with remediation and even reversal of autistic type behaviors. So, before we start digging into the documentary, I want to kind of get into some definitions. And when we say screen overuse syndrome or virtual autism, these are terms that get used in your film and in your work, but I'd like to unpack them specifically for the listeners today.
We define virtual autism as a term that Dr. Maria Samfir of Romania coined. It is excessive screen time in early childhood, usually before the age of 2, but I have seen some of it occur later and still, you know, cause a problem. But the excessive screen time usually tends to be over 2 hours, but sometimes even over 4 hours. So it would just depend of the sensitivity of the child a day for obviously a routine long exposure of time, not just one time for 4 hours a day. But it can cause problems with the child's brain development, leading to behaviors and symptomology that just mimic classical autism, that would not have that precursor in the environment of the high screen exposure. So things such as cognition delay, speech delay, ASD-like behaviors, repetitive, restrictive behaviors.
For those people who don't know, ASD stands for Autism
Oh,
Spectrum Disorder.
with repetitive, restrictive behaviors, wanting things just the same, some sensory issues, not wanting to put certain textures on their body, not wanting to eat certain things. And so it just a lot of the same and basically all of the same manifestation that we would think of in language ability, in social interaction ability, and repetitive restrictive behaviors we are seeing can be present in children with that history. And obviously, we're assuming and working on research that has used genetic testing as well. And this condition of virtual autism will test as autism on standardized assessments, the same as classical autism without this exposure would test. So tests like the ADOS will have positive results, the same as if the child had classical autism. The CARS, the MCHAT, there's a lot of tests that are used to determine autism. These testing tools will test just like typical autism will.
So, is it one of those things that it's up to a family to recognize the amount of screen exposure that's happening and then experiment with it? Or I'm just
Mhm.
wondering how to identify,
Oh,
what?
oh, okay. So when parents contact me or are interested in, does their child have virtual autism or classical autism? I get that question a lot. We qualify children for studies that we do is that they had to have at least 2 or more hours before the age of 2 to be considered a candidate for the study. Or like even some of our studies are taking children at 18 months, but it has had to be a history that the screen time was about 2 or more hours a day, um, and that they are having symptoms of autism or red flags for autism. And a lot of them have already been diagnosed with autism.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, Wilder, while you were making the film, did anything surprise you as you were creating it?
I was surprised by how much how much dedication, love, and determination the parents like were showing, and and wanted to share their story. I really looked up to them, and like, and I and I guess a surprise was just how like this journey of going on a digital screen fast for these families, like it brought them so close together, and it was just like it was just fun to be around and to see those to just see their how they communicate and the good times that they were having. So I mean that was kind of a surprise because getting to know these families and that was wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and really brave of them to let you into their kind of their intimate space of their home and family and allow you to record them at times of vulnerability where they're going, we're not sure what's going on. We don't know if this is the right thing. We're just trying. Right. And I really appreciate how you gave a very global view. These are very international families that are represented here. This is not a one country problem by any means. It's not even a one continent problem. It's a global problem.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate, the work you did in all of that. Um, I want to ask Lori, we talk about doing, I feel like this is a tricky episode in that I want to talk about the documentary, but I feel like maybe Lori, maybe you'll come talk to us another time
Oh, I would love
because,
to.
oh, okay. Because I'm like,
I would love to.
I feel like you're such a resource. I can't help
Oh,
but ask, like, if you had some critical takeaways, like, is there anything that you want families most to hear? Like what else you mentioned like the light up toys, you mentioned like those things. What else
yeah.
should be removed? Is it only screens if we're worried about our
Yeah.
kids? Is it like what can
So
you speak to
we
that?
just highly suggest and recommend that all screens be removed, tablet, television, smartphone, whatever people have, computer, would be removed from the child's sight and hearing.
Mm-hmm.
That is affected, that the toys be traditional non-light up toys without sounds, because those are attention hijackers as well, especially for kids with this predisposition that are wired differently than a typical child. They really get stuck in the toy, and the research shows that with those toys, there's less interaction between the parent and that a child has less opportunities to play creatively. It's kind of like make the sound and the toy's done. Make the
Mm-hmm.
sound and the toy's done. So there's less imagination needed. Um, and they create times where sometimes two kids go from thing to thing to thing, like different light up toy to different light up toy to different light up toy, so that they don't allow for as long of opportunities to play with, which the longer opportunities to play becomes the longer the learning. But Hillary, it's not just what we're removing, it's also what we're adding in
Mm-hmm.
that place. So that's super important and critical as well.
Yeah, yeah. And what you're talking about adding is all of that interaction and just all of that, in the creative process they talk about the incubationary period where it's like it's kind of that bridge between boredom and creation where
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of hatching an idea, but it's quite important to foster
Mm-hmm.
those moments. So, Wilder, did you have any like aha moments or takeaways while producing A Stone Unturned?
I think one aha moment was we organized an online screening, an online summit, and it was a moment where there were speakers from France. We showed parts of the film with stories from Romania, and then researchers from the U.S. were there as well, and then parents from all over the world joined, like many countries. So this was like it was just to see how researchers and doctors are all finding similar things independently, and so that just made the story like so strong, and there was such a positive feeling there of hope of like we can there's there's a solution, and we like we're kind of discovering this together. So that was a wonderful, that was an aha moment to see that it's not just a tiny story, but it's a shared story.
Yeah, a ripple effect. So, how can people watch A Stone Unturned?
Yes. So we are organizing a online screening and a virtual event this fall. And so if you're listening to the podcast before November 15, there's a simple registration. You can watch and stream the film. The documentary is about an hour. Yeah.
And I will link all of that in the show notes. And I recommend it be viewed for really any caretaker of children, whether it's parents, teachers, grandparents. I feel like the more we can educate people about this critical time of early brain development, which we classically have called early childhood development, but the more we learn about the brain development of the very young, I think the more importance we need to place upon, just hanging on to the humanity of it. So we have to take another short break, but when we come back, I am going to ask Wilder and Lori for their healthy screen habits. Extra thanks goes out this episode to Danielle Waters for her unwavering support of the podcast and the Healthy Screen Habits organization. If you'd like to make a difference and contribute to the education and empowerment of families building their healthy screen habits, please go to healthyscreenhabits.org. Find the Take Action tab and scroll down to click the donate button. 100% of your donation will be used to spread awareness and bring families the tools they need to develop healthy screen habits. I'm speaking with Wilder Nicholson and Lori Frome, who have worked together to cast light on excessive screen overuse syndrome with the documentary A Stone Unturned, a documentary about screen time and virtual autism. On every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask for a healthy screen habit, and these are going to be tips or takeaways that listeners can put into practice in their own home, hopefully right away. What are yours?
Mine is something that's pretty easy to remember. It's just screen free and the age 4, and then ASD, that acronym for autism spectrum disorder. I think that if we as parents can focus and caregivers on being as screen free as possible and as hands on as possible, playing with a kid, involving them in everyday life, and just being in close proximity as much as possible, and having the screens reduced as much as possible to age 4, that they are going to see so much better developmental outcomes in every spectrum of development. And that includes cognition, speech, adaptive skills or self-help skills. So screen free, then the number 4 and ASD just really is something that I always tell parents.
Great. How about you, Wilder?
Just thinking or hearing again, like how children learn. And one of those ways, even we learn really well, is by storytelling and stories that we hear. And so, just a healthy screen habit that I've tried to make use of is keeping my phone away during meals so that I can enjoy the company and listen to those stories with friends and family. And also just simply making the screens on my telephone like grayscale or black and white, and so it just returns my attention to this vibrant three-dimensional world where those relationships are. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Well, as always, you can find a complete transcript of this show as well as the link to watch A Stone Unturned and that nonprofit website by visiting the show notes for this episode. You do this by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click the podcast button, and find this episode. Thank you so very much, Lori Frome and Wilder Nicholson, for your time, your insight, your passion, and for turning over stones of all sorts.
Thank you so much, Hillary. It was so nice to be a guest.
Thank you, Hillary, for all you do, and best wishes.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.